the Best You podcast. The sole purpose of this podcast is to teach, inspire, and motivate everyone to be the best versions of themselves. What's up, guys? We're back for another episode of the Be the Best You podcast. I'm your host, Larry Dawson. If you guys are watching or listening today, please make sure you take the time to like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the show. So today, I knew I was going to film this episode today, and I was having some pretty strong thoughts about something that is pretty close and personal to me, dealing with something one of my friends is going through. So what I was originally going to do this particular episode about, I decided to change it up and talk to you guys about, this particular issue, because it's near and dear to me, and it's something that I've had to deal with, and I've helped a lot of other people overcome traumas and past experiences and stuff that's happened to them. A friend of mine, he's a married man. I'm not going to call him by his name or anything. I want to respect him, his wife, his family, and everything they're going through right now. He has an addiction to sex. And I'm sure that doesn't come off the best when you hear that, the way that sounds. But what we don't realize a lot of times in life is that things happen to us, and it triggers us and sets us in off on a path that may affect us forever. When you're messed with as a kid, two of the things that it can do to you is it tends to really send you in one direction, to really open you all the way up or shut you all the way down in a sexual way. So some people, when things happen to them, they become over-sexualized, and they do stuff that compromises themselves in their relationships by being too open and free sexually, and develop a sexual addiction. And some people shut all the way down. There's two people that are very near and dear to me. One is in their late 30s and one is in their late 50s. And they're both virgins. And they were both messed with in kids. It did the opposite to them. It shut them all the way down. Myself, I was molested as a kid too. And I battled some of these same issues for a big chunk of my life. I would say at least the first 30 years of my life. So from the time it happened, I was 6 to 7 years old, and then I started messing around myself at the age of 12, and then just continued on, and just terrible behavior. It led to failed relationships and bad decisions on my end, and things that I regretted then and still regret now. I used to beat myself up about that stuff, but I changed my life and who I am. Haven't been like that for a really long time, and I had to eventually forgive myself for those actions. Is there anyone else that's watching or listening that maybe went down the path that I had went down at one point before I decided to stop, and then I wanted to change and not be like that anymore and address those issues, and something like my friend's going through right now, and I'm trying to help him go through that. Obviously, I hope that he didn't lose his family over it, but there's a good chance that he might have. But as long as he doesn't lose himself, and he gets help so he can live a healthy life going forward, we too many times take a moment of something bad that happened to us, and we hold on to that moment, and that moment affects us for the rest of our lives. And we shouldn't give anybody that did anything to us that power. So that person had that power on us when we were younger for that moment in time, but to continue to give that person that moment over and over and over and over, what's affecting our life, is to continue to empower him in what he did. I would like to tell anyone watching or listening to take the power back and let that go. And let that stay on them, not you, because all that was a moment, and that moment doesn't need to destroy your life. And too many times we're ashamed or we're embarrassed to talk about it. No matter which end you are, the end that, it sent you in this direction or it sent you in this direction, that doesn't matter. A lot of times people are too embarrassed to talk about it. one thing it does is, I remember I filmed a video about, I would say 5 or 6 years ago, and I think it was the first time on camera that I admitted that, I was sexually assaulted, and, it happened from the age of 6 to 7. Not only was I sexually assaulted, I was assaulted by a man, not a woman, so, an, another, another thing is that too many times we have this mindset that we did something wrong, and we feel dirty because of the situation. And what I would like for people to know is that you need to change your mindset on that. Stop being embarrassed and feel dirty and feel like you did something wrong, because what actually happened was you was a victim and someone else did something wrong to you. But we don't always understand that, because there's this like dirty feeling like I should be ashamed, nobody should know about this, I don't want to talk about it. And so we try to hold it in, and it eats us from the inside out. I'm talking from past experience. Before I was able to finally like come to grips with it, open up, talk about it, let it out, heal, become a better person, and then get in a place where I could help other people that are going through it. I remember when I made that first video and I talked about it, I was open, I got hundreds of messages and people saying, oh my God, you took my thoughts and put them out there. I would have never thought someone like you could come forward. If someone like you could come forward, I can come forward. And people saying, I never thought like that, but I always kept it in because I always felt dirty, like I did something wrong. But to hear you put those words and say that, we didn't do anything wrong, we were actually victims, and they were the one that did something wrong, and there's nothing for us to be embarrassed about, something was done to us. It would be like, if you was in a gas station tomorrow and someone runs in and robs the gas station, there's nothing for you to be ashamed about. You didn't do anything wrong. You was in a gas station when the gas station got robbed. You was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the wrong person came in and did something. It's the same thing with being sexually assaulted when you're younger, or even raped, or something terrible like that happening to you when you're older. You're a victim in that moment for what has happened to you. It doesn't mean that you have to be a victim for the rest of your life because of that moment, because that moment was just that moment. That's all it was. We have great moments, we have bad moments, we have happy moments, we have sad moments, we have lonely moments. We have all kinds of different moments in our life. None of those should define us and shape us and control us and manipulate us and run us. We should be strong enough to understand each moment is what it is. I know it's harder for some than it is for others, and some, let me break this down for you. The best way I can break this down for you is that as human beings, we get addicted to our feelings and emotions. This is going to sound crazy when I say that we get addicted to feeling bad emotions and pain and stuff, but we do, because your body starts to develop habits and your body reacts to these emotions a certain way. When you try to change your habits and you try to change your emotions, your body starts going into default effect and subconsciously pulling you back to feel those emotions again. You have to break that pattern. You have to be consciously aware of that, and you have to go through the process of allowing yourself to feel different emotions, have different default settings, and to eliminate those feelings and replace those with new feelings, and create new default settings, and allow your body to get addicted to new feelings. It's a step-by-step process that you have to go through start to finish to actually get there. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't address that and don't dig deep in there. We would rather just sweep stuff under the rug and act like it doesn't go away. That's just not the way life works, and that's not the way the human mind, body, and soul works. You need clarity, you need healing, you need transparency, you need to talk about it, you need to go through the different griefs and stages of griefs, and allow yourself to have full understanding so you can live a healthy life. I remember I saw the person that molested me after not seeing them for, close to 30 years. So let's just say it was about 28 years when I finally saw this person again after not seeing them for 28 years. I remember their face when they saw me. By all, this is how weird life is that I ran into this person when I came home from jail. The irony of this man lived directly across the street from where my mom now lived. And so a couple days after being home, I saw this man in person. And so you talk about the ultimate test. Oh, you think you've really changed. Because the old me had waited for the opportunity to run into this man so I could take things into my own hand and get revenge in my own way. Fortunately, that never happened. And a lot of time went by. During that time is when I went through my healing and I re-educated myself and I changed my life. And I made a lot of promises to myself and in prayer and even a few to my mother. And so when I came home and this man that had done this to me almost 30 years ago, my mom and his mom were actually friends. This dude was about 10 years older than me, and he actually was supposed to be my babysitter when I was younger. And he had this reputation. He was the all-American boy. Everybody thought could do no wrong. But he did a lot of wrong. I don't know if I was the only person he ever did that to, but it wasn't just the sexual assault. He also physically assaulted me really bad on several occasions. This happened for about a year straight. Later on down the road, I heard that he ended up coming out and then ended up being part of the drag community. And so he went up north for a long time, and I guess eventually he moved back down here because his mother and his family. But when I saw him, his mom actually was coming over to say hi. She knew I was home, and he came with her. In that moment in time is when I knew that I was really over what had happened to me, and that I was able to pass the test that life throws at you, because that's what life does. Because the old me, I know how I would have handled it. But instead there was like this peace and this happiness that came over me. Because in that moment, I even saw him, I even walked up and shook this man's hand and looked at him in the eye. Because in that moment in time, what I did was I transferred energy. Even though, I had moved past it, I wanted to look him in the eye. I'm fine and my life is great. Here you go. You take this energy with you. I carried this around for a long time. So for the rest of his life, he would have to carry around the burden of what he did to me. That burden was no longer on me. That was his burden to carry. Not my burden anymore. And it actually had not been in a while, but to transfer that energy was actually a good experience. Probably way more satisfaction than I got if I had physically assaulted him or something like that. I've been home 8.5 years, so that encounter happened 8.5 years ago. I saw about 2 months ago that he passed away, and once again another test, because when I saw that, I had zero emotions either way. The only emotion that I felt was his mother is still alive. And I thought to myself, that is terrible to have to bury your own kid. But besides that, there was no emotion, there was no, satisfaction or anger or happiness or any kind of emotion. Just the one emotion. I thought, I felt bad for his mom to have to bury her kid. You can get to a point, no matter what's happened to you or where you're at in life, where those things no longer affect you. You have to be consciously aware of your actions and why you are the way you are, why you've developed those patterns, and why you operate the way you do, what triggers you, what shuts you down, why you haven't been this or why you have been that, and address it once and for all. And too many of us live in the closet and in the dark with our demons, when in reality, what we should be doing is trying to empty that closet out and heal ourselves. So I encourage anyone out there that's struggling with anything that might have happened to them, from a sexual standpoint, from being assaulted in any type of way, to understand you were a victim, that you didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to feel dirty or ashamed about, and that you need to reach out. There's a lot of people out there that understand what you have gone through, that can help you. 1 in every 3 people have been sexually violated in one type of way or another. So if you're out there and you're thinking it's just me, I'm the only person, you're wrong. Go into any room at any time there's 3 or more people in there. It's happened to at least one of those people in that room, if not several, depending on the amount of people in that room. Think about that when you think about you're the only one. And there's a lot of places out there and a lot of people out there that are willing to help. But you have to let it out. You have to go through the different stages of grief. You have to acknowledge it, and you have to let it go and release it. Not bury it, release it. 2 completely different things. When you bury it, it never goes away. It just eats you from the inside out like a cancer. When you release it, you have released that energy and it is gone from you. That is the goal, and that is what you want to do, so you live a healthy life and you don't stay a victim, because you was only a victim in that moment. It is you, it is I, it is us that chooses to continue to make ourselves victims. So we have the ability now to no longer be that victim and say, I'm not that victim, I was that victim in that moment, but that's it. I am not a victim now. If anyone's watching or listening to this video, I know this is a little bit different than our normal topics, but this was just heavy on my heart. Had some really deep conversations with my friend. He's agreed to go to rehab and take the proper steps and to get help. I love that man. He's like a brother to me. Much respect to him for acknowledging and wanting to do the things that he needs to do to change. Unfortunately, it's done a lot of damage. But, we all travel our own path, and we all travel our own path for a reason. And I just want anyone to know that no matter how far down you've went down the wrong path, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter how far you've went down, there are ways to get back on track. And it just starts with a step in the right direction, and then continued steps in the right direction. And if I, with all the trials and tribulations and the trauma and the destruction and chaos that I went through as a younger person, then anyone can do it. And it's not just me saying it. My life is absolute proof. If you know the things I went through, if you listen to my podcast and my motivational speeches, or you follow me in any type of way, you know all the different trials and tribulations that I went through, and you know what I'm talking about. And if I can overcome all of those, then so can any of you. And it's not just me. I'm not the only point of reference. There's hundreds of thousands, millions across America and the world that have went through this and come out the other end okay, living a beautiful and happy life, just like I am. But you have to go through the steps. So anyone that's out there that's dealing with demons because of this trauma, I encourage you, I implore you to address it. Deal with it once and for all. Stop trying to suppress it, and instead release it. Release it into the universe, and let that energy go once and for all, so you can be whole and happy and fulfilled and loving life. There are plenty of professionals out there. If anyone ever needs, a sounding board, I will be there, and I can be your sounding board. But there are plenty of professionals that can help you professionally and get to the root of the problem once and for all, and help you release that. Please reach out to the proper people to get the proper help that you need. Please don't hold things in. Please address it, and please understand that you did nothing wrong. You were a victim in that moment. You are no longer a victim. but you were a victim in that moment. You guys leave a comment, man. Tell me what you think, what you thought about this episode, what you thought about the last few episodes. Tell me, what else you'd like for me to talk about on future episodes. But on this particular topic, you know, maybe this is the opportunity when you're hearing this or seeing this to get you to open up. And if that's the case, you reach out to myself or you reach out to a medical professional to get the help that you need. Or if you just need to get something off your chest, just get it off your chest. If you're watching or listening, please take the time to like, share, subscribe. I know this was a little different, maybe darker side of my podcast, but this is real life, and my podcast is about real life, and my podcast is about being the best you. And anyone that has went through the trauma that I went through, or their own trauma, whatever that is, especially on the sexual side, this is about being the best you. Because I just laid out the steps of how you can overcome that and be the best you and be the best version of yourself. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning into the Be the Best You podcast. I'm your host, Larry Dawson. Until next time, try until you fly.